Hello there and welcome to the top 10 most likely unseen issues for the exam at the MCS sitting February 2019 with Crowncare. So just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover, these are the 10 issues that we feel are going to likely to be arriving in a variety of the different exam questions. There's a number of variants, so you may not see each in your exam specifically, but you are likely to see them across the board when we look at all of them afterwards. So, with that said, we choose these based on the focus in the pre-scene, so how much space is devoted to the issue, the degree of importance attached to it by the examiner. And that's quite key because the examiner may put a lot of hints about a very niche topic, but if that niche topic is not a huge part of the syllabus, then we can't rank it super highly because then suddenly it's just not going to be likely to be tested in a lot of the variants. It'll be more so a contextual point or half an issue within a greater exam question. With that said, we also have strategic importance in forming these decisions. How important is it to our SWOT analysis and the importance that it's likely to be attached to by the directors? So our strategic position, where we want to go, what our vision is, that the importance of the issue to that will also be considered. And finally, it is the experience of myself. I've done the MCS analysis for a very long time now, and also the wider staff at Astranti have a lot of experience at the different levels of examination. So we know about the typical issues which I'll express to you and how easy it is to write issues on the subject by the examiner, because the examiner, they're human as well. They don't want to make hard work for themselves. They will pick similar questions worded in similar ways to test you all each time. That's just the reality of the situation. Anyway, with that said, let's actually get on to how we're going to prepare for these issues. The first thing that we want to do is get the key models from the pre-seen information and adapt all the models for new points in the unseen. So that's primarily relating to the strategic analysis, so I would recommend you use them in tandem. You get the 10 issues from this video and then consider how they relate to the strategic analysis that we've been through in the other video. On top of this, you should practice mock exams that cover these issues from previous sittings. You can find those at the CIMA website. It's typically under the cgma.co.uk or .com, I believe, in terms of that's their wider accredited body now that's in tandem with the US bodies. On top of this, find relevant real-life examples, prepare sample paragraphs and learn them. Whilst you can't be sure what exact questions are going to come up, if you can pre-rehearse just a few small, very small and brief paragraphs, that will help you construct a large paragraph or just be a good add-on point to a specific issue, that would get you some bonus marks. There are integration marks, which are essentially discretionary marks from the examiner based on how well you answer the overall question and link the two different requirements together. So writing well and using good examples will get you those bonus marks. On top of this, you need to learn the advantages and disadvantages of all the key points. Knowing them thoroughly will help you prepare the best answer, and in the exam you definitely want to spend some time preparing the structure of your answer. Unstructured answers are the biggest reason why people fail. But without spieling too much about that, we also need to be prepared for which models to use for which issue. So knowing all the models would be great, but if you use them in the wrong context, you're not going to pick up the mark. So make sure we're keeping them relevant. So, issue number 10 is project management. Now, it's quite a broad topic and it's a very easily examinable topic rather. For example, it's identified as part of our role. We are a management accountant. Our responsibilities are as such. So project management, the clues in the name even, that is one of the key aspects we'll be doing. So it's typically going to come up in the exam. The company will always do a lot of projects. That's just business essentially. And also there's lots of information suggesting the need for new projects, such as acquisitions, expansion into overseas markets, etc. There was a lot of scope in the pre-scene for growth. We're doing very well in our localized area, but we need to become bigger, more impressive, actually push the boat out to different markets. Actually push the boat out to different markets and fund this bigger growth, because we have so much potential. We're doing very, very well at the moment, but stagnation is the antithesis to growth. So also, finally, it's a nice topic to write a question on. The examiner will be comfortable writing the question. It's an easy, known topic. So that's why we've chosen it at number 10. It's not super high up this list because it's quite generic, but again, it often makes the top 10 because of just how simple and important it is as a topic. So what are the likely issues? Well, you're probably going to be asked to oversee a new project, or there may be some issues regarding some planning or an existing project. For example, we may need to offer some advice with a project that's going wrong. Perhaps our estimation of revenues is a bit off, and we need to discuss why it's difficult to estimate revenues, and we should base our decision on something else. But with that said, let's move on to the key points you have to raise. And essentially, you're looking at customer satisfaction being super important, and that's how projects are generally managed. We're looking to appease our stakeholders, make them happy, make them want to do business with us. Also, we need to work to a budget. And is our budgeting correct? Is the methodology right? For example, in the pre-scene, our IT systems have been mentioned to not categorize certain time frames that are spent discussing with lab technicians. So the cosmetic procedures that involve correspondence with the labs, we are going to be out on our budget based on the IT system, because they're not accounting for the cost of the time spent talking between the dentist and the technician. Also, you should raise the idea that there is a fine margin between success and failure, so the management of the project is really, really important. If you miss a few details, that can have long and impactful consequences in the project moving forward. And of course, we're now moving into a mature industry. So we saw with a lot of the products that we do in Industry Pack and the pre-scene analysis, but if you haven't seen those, essentially the dental market is moving towards these big companies consolidating by acquiring practices and becoming these large groups. And on top of this, big healthcare companies like Bupa are buying these big dental companies. This is a big consolidation move towards this market, and it's becoming extremely mature. So that means we have to differentiate ourselves with new projects and to continue to consolidate ourselves via acquisition projects. So with that said, we move on to issue 9, which is value chain efficiencies. This is all centered on us adding value throughout the process of our operations to give the best experience and service to our customers. So the basis of choice for this is how important quality is to our strategic goal, which is to be the best quality provider in Capital City and hopefully the rest of Varentia very soon. And this emphasizes the supply chain, because quality is often derived from our supply chain, what we're adding to the process. There's a lot of dental surgeries out there. So if you were to go to a VHS, so the Varentian Health Service dentistry practice, you're going to get some sort of standard procedure and it'll be okay. You might not get the best customer service, etc. And that's where our value chain efficiencies come in. We've got to set ourselves aside from these cheaper substitutes. There's also an increasing consumer demand for cosmetic products, and there's the highest sensitivity to error in manufacture. There's also an increasing demand for cosmetic procedures, and these have the highest sensitivity to error in their manufacturing process. So if you recall from the pre-scene, we're corresponding with laboratories and the technicians there to get very bespoke and specific, precise sort of products for cosmetic procedures such as dentures, implants, bridges, and these are going to translate to the potential problem of human error. And if we make an error, well, in the dental industry, that relates to a loss of trust with the customer. They're going to be very dissatisfied. And in some cases, if you cause more damage with a sort of a dodgy implant, well, suddenly you've got a lawsuit or just a compensation claim waiting with your name on it. So, with this in mind, it's incredibly important to add value. And also, as part of the examination process, decision making is part of earning leadership marks, and value chain efficiencies are firmly placed in this topic. So, what are the likely issues? Well, what are other further efficiencies? Because typically in the pre-scene we get outlined all our operations, and they mostly explain what we're doing to add value chain efficiencies. However, what could we be doing better? For example, in this case, we could be utilizing a better IT system to get a better idea of our cost per product and changing our processes to add the most value at the lowest cost, which then translates to the customer with a lower cost procedure, and then they have to pay less of an insurance premium to be part of our dentistry practice. Also, economies of scale. So essentially, how big can we scale things up to? For example, in this case, perhaps adding to economies of scales would probably imply that we get our own laboratory and try to produce more dentures than before or under a previous arrangement with the third-party laboratories. But without waffling on too much, what do we have to talk about with the value chain efficiencies? Well, first and foremost, we have to talk about what the value chain is and how it works. So we have to discuss that value chain efficiencies are where we're adding processes through our operations that add value to what we're actually selling. So in this industry, we are adding customer service, for example, training, the best technology to add value to the overall experience and service that the customers receive. Also, we have to discuss the implication of strategic decisions on the value chain. For example, if we wanted to automate more processes, such as some kind of dental implant procedures, or the kind of manufacturing style procedures that are involved in the prep work, if those were automated, then that's probably going to give us the most precise quality, and the strategic decision of the company is to be quality focused. So automation makes a lot of sense, and it fits into our value chain as far as our strategy is concerned. And of course, what are the actual areas of possible efficiencies that we can add? And lower cost materials are kind of this blanket statement that fit any industry. If we can get our materials and supplies for the lowest possible cost, we can translate that lower cost to the customer, and that's going to give them a lot of trust and belief that they're getting the best value for money and the best quality. In fact, in some cases, we may not even have to lower the price to our customers. It will just be a pure value efficiency for us. Finally, Crowncare insurance. Did anyone else get that from the pre-scene? I mean, looking through it, of course, it's quite a big deal to have to do a diversification to an industry such as insurance. However, we could also have a captive subsidiary, like in the press coverage section, which insures us, and then another subsidiary that insures the rest of our patients, and it might be a requisite to be a patient at our surgery. And if our surgeries have all the data, the patient data, well, they know how well they clean their teeth on average because they see in the dental checkups. So they can actually have a very bespoke kind of insurance premium per customer. So it can be a very good efficiency. We cut out the middleman, essentially.
Hello, it's me again.
I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to first extend my hope that you enjoyed the free sample that you've just viewed, but also to just sort of explain what else Astranti do to help you pass your exam really effectively, provided you found our sample particularly interesting and insightful, of course. So, of course, we have a study text for every module, ranging from P1 to F3, and the certificate level is also free on our website. So we have study texts throughout the CIMA course, every module you could hope to study. The certificate level are free, as I mentioned, and then the rest of them, ranging from P1 to F3, are all available to purchase. Alongside this, if you're not so much a study text kind of student and you prefer a visual way of learning, we have the course videos. We essentially break down the study text into bite-sized presentations with a walkthrough, and it's a very, very, very engaging way of explaining the course. Following this, we have the pre-scene analysis, where we break down each pre-scene sitting into a number of videos, going through the whole document, but also adding a top 10 recommendations for what will come up in the exam, and also a strategic analysis where we put all the models you'd find in E2, for example, to the pre-scene itself, whichever that may be at the time. Alongside this, we provide an industry analysis. This is a document and accompanying video which help you give that contextual information in your exam. So, for example, if the pre-scene's on the oil industry, the industry analysis will break down the oil industry, the current topics, trends, issues, what the competitive market looks like, all those kind of aspects, all condensed into one so you can spend your time wisely in your study period. Following on from this, when you actually want to practice all this knowledge, we have mock exams for all of our materials. So StudyText has a generic mock exam based on the module, whereas the pre-scene analysis has mocks available to purchase that are based on that specific pre-scene, that are targeted to the key issues we believe will come up. And if you're not content with just doing those mock exams and practicing that way, we have a marking and feedback system where you can purchase the ability to send in your paper, have it marked by a CIMA qualified accountant, and get personalized feedback on whether you can improve X or Y area. And sort of finally, if you will, if you're feeling really underprepared and that exam is coming really, really soon, the masterclasses are offered by Astranti, and they're essentially a crash course in anything you could want for that topic. So if it's a masterclass on the pre-scene, it's going to give you absolutely everything that you could possibly need to know about the pre-scene in one rather really condensed sitting. Likewise, if it was the F3 masterclass, you would have all of F3 gone through in a very crash course style presentation and video link. You can also purchase it post-stream as opposed to viewing it live, all these kind of aspects. We are very, very confident that these materials will help you get the exam success that you want. So we have a pass guarantee. Provided you fill out a form which demonstrates that you have utilized our materials to a large extent and actually taken the time to study them, and you have unfortunately failed, we will offer you the same materials again for the next sitting as a consolidatory offer to ensure that you can get back on the horse and get that exam grade that you want. With that said, thank you very much for watching the sample video. I hope you enjoyed it and it gives you a lot of confidence in Astranti and your CIMA future.